Hello and welcome to Hope doesn't know what she's doing, but she's doing it anyway. So I'm currently working on my creative project for English 347. I'm gonna do a punch needle thing. So I thought it would be fun to kind of film the process and maybe get some footage of, yeah, just the process of how I'm figuring out how to do this, what decisions I make, what goes into putting this together. My cat, as you can see, it's not going to, there he goes. This is Pumpkin, he's helping. Elwood is down there, he is also helping. Well, the knife gremlin is probably hindering, but he's trying. So anyway, this is just gonna be me kind of recording my thoughts and the process of putting this together. So stage one, I've got to figure out how to make this work. My plan is to make a punch needle that has like a design on the front and then has a separate hidden design on the back so that when you turn it over, there's another thing there. So I've got to figure out how to make that work. I have a couple of ideas, the first of which is just a punch needle on the separate thing. So I've got like this color that I'm gonna just test on the front, just a random blue that I have, and then I've got like some orange that is quite vibrant, and I'm gonna try punch needling a thing on the front, and then I'm going to flip it over and from the front try to punch needle in a way that doesn't show through on the front, that's kind of hidden in the loops that the punch needling process makes. And then once that is done, I'm going to do a second swatch of this size. This is a 3-inch hoop, and if I have some more of the same colors I'll do that, but if not I will get something else. But I'm going to do a second one where instead of trying to punch needle from the front and hide it in the loops, I'm going to try to embroider on the back, which will take some time because I need to learn how to embroider, but I'm gonna pick simple stitches and just do a simple design hopefully on the back, at least for the testing while I'm figuring out how to do that. But I think that the embroidery could work because I'll be able to use the kind of low, they're not quite loops, the little bumps that are made on the side of the punch needle that you're actually pushing the needle through. So I'm gonna see if I can make that work. We shall see. For reference, if you haven't seen punch needle work before, I have one, this is my very first one that I made. I didn't finish off the edges well, but I am very pleased with it. I made this little mat that has a bat on it. As I said, the edges are not great, but it's gonna look something like this. Like the front will be this kind of like loopy stuff, makes kind of a dense, squishy thing, and then the back looks like that. It's much flatter, so that's why I think I could potentially like embroider over top of this. So we shall see what ends up actually working. So just to check in, this is what this starts to look like when you've got a little bit of it done. This is the front. You can actually also use the other side as the front if it's neater and if that's what you want, but I kind of want this like dense loopy bit for the front because on the actual piece I'm hoping to use a bunch of different colors, and I kind of want the kind of wavy, wiggly texture you get on the front because my design is probably going to include some like water type look. So I'm wanting this kind of dense, wiggly thing. Also, you can see that like some of my loops on this side are a little small. A lot of this will be evened out when I go back through and kind of fill in around. But yeah, and then this is what it looks like on the back. This is not the most camera-friendly yarn. It's quite dark, but you get these kind of little flat loops. Mine are quite messy because I don't go in like a straight line. I kind of go all over the place because I do want the front to be quite dense and solid. So anyway, this is maybe 5 minutes of work. It's pretty quick. Punch needle is very satisfying. Just a side note, I picked this up during the pandemic, and you ever just need like to take out some rage, try punch needle. Just stab some fabric. Actually, this is the thing I was thinking about when I was choosing this as my form for this project, as my art form for this project, is that this is kind of a violent art. It is, you know, stabbing a quite sharp needle into some fabric, and as you can kind of see around the edges, let's see if it'll let me zoom in even more, maybe. Can we focus? Ish. You can kind of see like right in here that it kind of displaces the fabric, and if I were to pull some of this out, in fact I will, because why not? You would see it kind of leaves these permanent marks on the fabric. You end up with these big holes. Like, I can kind of push the fiber back in, but it's never going to be the same as it was. And so I think that that is kind of interesting in terms of this project of kind of looking at the hidden costs of colonialism and capitalism and these other major kind of global forces on a society and on a place. You know, it makes a whole. It makes an impact that it can never quite go back to the way it was before. And, you know, that was something I was thinking about when I picked this. But I think it's interesting to see it as it actually shows up in the process. I have finished the first swatch. And this is basically what it looks like on the front when everything is all packed in. It's very squishy. It's quite thick, you can actually see. And you can see where I have tried to punch in the kind of hidden section. And what I'm finding here is that, first of all, this is possible. It is somewhat difficult because I can't see where I'm putting the punch needle in through. So this is what it looks like on the back. That's what it looks like on the front. I do like that this shows up a little bit, because you can kind of see a little bit of the orange peeking through. And this is kind of what I'm going to be going for, because I want it to be like there's just something out of place that would entice you to go look at it closer, to like go, what is that? And like try to turn it over and see what's on the back. Or, you know, maybe not initially think to turn it over, but just trying to figure out what it is, and then maybe turning it over and finding that there is something hidden. That is kind of the thing that I'm going for. So if I can figure out a way to create a pattern that is followable from the front, this might be a good way to do it, if only because punch needle is very quick. Again, I started this, like, I think this is maybe 20 minutes total, 25 minutes total of work. So that's very quick. It would be a very fast way to do this. I also did this with a very small punch needle. I did the hidden part of the small punch needle, so I could do it with the bigger one as well. So next up, I'm actually not even going to make a second swatch for now, I think. I'm just going to try and use this other side here to embroider. And I found some instructions on the kind of embroidery I want to do. I'm sorry, we're just all over the place. I'm trying to hold up this camera. Yeah, I'm going to try a couple of things with the embroidery. I found some good tutorials on the kind of embroidery that I think I want to do, because it'll be very quick and also very bold. So that will be interesting, and I will check back in. It may be tomorrow before this is done, but I will check back in when I have done my second swatch and decided what I'm going to do in actuality for the final project. One more update. It's actually only been a few minutes, but I actually found my embroidery thread, which I thought was going to take longer, and I've started on testing the embroidery, and I really think that's going to be the way to go, because there is this thing that I found, I think it's called couching, but anyway, you create like a long strand and then tack it down with a smaller strand of thread, and so you can really create a bold line, which is very visible. It helps that I am using some extremely vibrant embroidery thread, which is what I wanted for this particular test. But it is slightly visible on the front, but only just a little bit. It may even be very difficult to see on camera, but obviously there's my little thread where it came out. But you can almost kind of see these little strands of yellow on the front if you look closely. Obviously we can see the orange, but there's these little strands of yellow that show through. It's really not showing up on the camera, but that is exactly what I wanted. I wanted that to be slightly visible. I could leave some tails hanging out if I really wanted to. But I think that that is going to be the way to go, because that will allow me to make pretty much whatever design I come up with. That'll be a quick and easy way to do that, instead of trying to like blindly punch needle, which, and obviously this was intended to be like a paisley shape, because I am wanting to incorporate that shape into this piece, but it doesn't look like a paisley, but I think I could do that with this technique. I kind of forgot I was intending to be filming this, if I can get out of the light here. So I didn't actually film part of this process, but anyway, what I've done is cut a section of monk's cloth, and I've gotten a 12-inch embroidery hoop, and at the moment I'm going around, and it's hard to see, but I am pulling the slack out of the edges, because for punch needle to work, it really needs to be really taut. Similarly to embroidery, it's really just embroidery but with bigger fibers. So I'm pulling out all my slack. I think I'm almost there. And the plan is that this bit will be the top. I'm gonna do kind of like a kind of slanted section of shoreline along the edge, and then we'll do some sea foam and then sea out this way. I didn't want to specifically do imagery for Antigua or Kenya because they both connect to the ocean. Both texts use the ocean as a framework in different ways. So I really wanted to do something more along the lines of depicting the ocean and then looking at bigger histories, hidden histories, which will be on the back of the piece. So I went and got my yarn today, and we have this and a little strand of pink I'm going to use to do the sand. And then this I already had on hand, so I have this like nice shimmery white for some sea foam. And then I have 2 shades of teal that I'm going to blend out to do the water. So I'm looking forward to those, seeing how those come together. I do like this color selection, and I think that it's not overly ambitious, so I think it'll be doable in the time I have. I have little shreds of the edges that are coming off there. So that's fun. And then for the back, I have this bag of embroidery thread that I bought ages ago at a charity shop. And I don't know exactly what colors I'm going to use yet, but I'll probably use some of this to do the imagery on the back, because I found in my earlier tests that embroidery was the much easier way to do a hidden image on the back, but it still shows through a little bit on the front, like just enough for you to go, hey wait, there's something off there, there's something happening here. So that's the plan for that. And then I also have this that I bought a while back that I think are fun. So I have a bunch of dragon scales in an old Talenti jar. And these are not the ones I'm going to use, but just because they're easier to see for demonstration purposes, it's a dragon scale if it will zoom. Can we focus? No. Yes, there we go. So they look like that, slightly curved. And I have this little thing, which is an old tea jar. I like to repurpose containers, as you can tell. And in here, I have a bunch of like little tiny silver dragon scales. So I think I'm going to use some of those to evoke kind of a chain on the back. That's one of the pieces of imagery that I want to use. I'm also thinking I want to pull some of the imagery from some of Shelter Patel's poetry, particularly the Paisley in the first poem in Migritude. Mostly because that poem really struck me. It's kind of where I got this idea from. So I do want to incorporate kind of Paisley shapes into this. And then I also am thinking maybe like I need to go more metaphorical, I think, because making a scene I think is too ambitious for the time that I have. So I'm thinking like a skull and some things like that. And when I'm thinking about this, I am really thinking about like how MB became Paisley. And I'm also thinking about the opening section of A Small Place when Jamaica Kincaid is talking about some of the things on the island, like not having a proper sewage system and things like that. But she says something about, you know, the Atlantic is, or the Caribbean Sea is big and the Atlantic is so much bigger, and you would be surprised to find out how many bodies they have claimed, or something like that. I don't remember the exact phrasing, but that sentence really struck me. So that's kind of what I'm thinking about when I am thinking about the imagery I want to use on the back of this. So that's where I'm at. I'm getting all my pieces pulled together, and I'll start on this evening. I'll probably draw on kind of some lines to give myself a sense of space as I am figuring out where the colors are going to go, where the kind of color changes are going to go. But yeah, that's the plan, and I am looking forward to putting it together. So my phone is in the way, but I have completed the shoreline portion. This is maybe an hour to hour and a half worth of work. Didn't really time it or anything, but this is what it looks like on the front. Please pardon the bag. That has my extra supplies in it. And that's what it looks like on the other side. So I'm really pleased with how this turned out. If you can kind of tell, it's got a little bit of pink in it. Just a little bit for some visual interest. And now I'm about to start on doing some seafoam stuff along the edge, and I thought it would be fun to show you how I thread the punch needle. So, the punch needle looks like this guy. It's got a little hole. Do the makeup YouTuber thing. Is it gonna work? Oh, there it goes. So you have a little hole there, and it's kind of slanted there. So what I'm gonna do is put this wire through this hole, then slide it down through the punch needle. It'll come back out the other end. Quit focusing on the thing in the background. I have not mastered the focus on this camera yet, if it's not super obvious. So, up here, let's focus again. So what I'm gonna do is put my yarn through that. Oops. This is a kind of a thin white yarn for the sea foam, and then just yank it through the punch needle. It'll come out the other end. Take the wire off of it. Make sure I just have a little bit of tail there. And then I can go in and, without trying to punch through the front, just punch right through. I want to kind of hold it as I get started. Go a little over, punch through again. And I will continue along the way until I get where I want to turn. Brief update, just because I'm making a lot of progress here. But I am now almost halfway across. If I turn it over, that's what the front looks like. I really intended to update one more time than I did, but anyway, it's done. At least the front is done. It's like that. That's the bottom, that's the top. And yeah, I'm really happy with how this turned out. I like how the colors blend, and I think it turned out exactly the way I wanted. And then that is the back. So this will be the side that I embroider on, because it will be a lot easier to embroider onto this than onto this. So yeah, that's it.